Well, hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me here. It's January 17th, 17. Yeah, minus 17 was the temperature this morning when I got up. So cold, cold, cold here. So much for the earlier part of the winter where it wasn't cold. Now it's very cold here. So, not inside my house though. It's nice and warm in here. What I've got in front of me here is probably the nicest looking radio I've ever had in my shop. This radio just appears to be in stunningly good condition, and I believe the owner told me it's never been refurbished. The cabinet has never been forgot the word, refinished, hard to believe looking at it, but look, it still has its original Philco name. It has all the letters and names around the bands and the like. Once a cabinet's refinished, all these words disappear during the finishing process. So just a beautiful, beautiful radio. I would say, yeah, it looks original. Almost all these radios, the wood begins to crack in a very, very, there's a word for it, I think maybe it's called checking, and this one shows very little evidence of it, which again is very surprising. Fantastic. Now I'm pretty sure this back is not original, and I think the owner told me he created this back to put on here, and he's got a few things going. Looks like a new cord, antenna lead with a clip on the end, very good. iPod input here. It looks like a stereo plug goes in there. It's got a button over here, radio, and auxiliary, all beautifully done. Yeah. So this is not what I like. I don't like radios that look fantastic like this on my bench. I like radios that are really beat up, where any improvement is a big step forward. This guy, yeah, everything could be a step backwards from this. Certainly the cabinet. I'm tempted to plug it right in, but I'm not going to. I'm trying to remember what the complaint was about the radio. I don't remember now. I believe it just stopped working, but I'm not sure of that. So we're going to take the back off and take a look at what's going on back there. And it's done with Canadian wood screws, Roberts wood screws, green handle. Yeah, I'd say, I've had hundreds of radios in here, and this one is right at the top in terms of its condition. It's really quite unbelievable. You'd have to wonder, where was this radio all these years? Was it in a box for many, many years, protected some way, or in a cabinet? Was it inside a cabinet with the, glass cabinet with the doors closed, or what? It really is difficult to believe. Now, I can just pull a little on this, it should come out. Very nicely. Oh, look at this trick that's been pulled here. This is a trick. Okay, we have a iPod switch here with only 2 wires. Just 2 wires. Okay, that's interesting. Oh my gosh, the inside is just as neat and clean as the outside. Interestingly enough, it's got a bunch of Loctol tubes. That's a little odd in a radio like this to have Loctol tubes. They tend to have them in car radios, but the Loctol tube has a center pin that comes down and locks on to something, so the tube can't shake loose. This is just in absolutely fantastic condition. Not exactly sure what this little bundle of wire is. It could be a ground lead that's been left inside the radio. You can see what looks like a sheet of asbestos with a piece of, I would say that's probably paper or cardboard on top of it. That's a little odd. And you have this protector on top of it. Wow! That is really, really fantastic. Oh my gosh. Oh! Oh, no. I was going to say, oh, I see the problem. The string is off. No. But very interestingly enough, you can see that someone has penciled all these marks on here with different frequencies. And I'm guessing when you not guessing, when you take the radio out of the cabinet, the dial face does not come along. The dial face stays in the cabinet. And the result of that is you have some trouble aligning it. Someone has taken the time to mark all those different frequencies right on the back panel here so alignment can be done. Very good. Wow, someone's really taking care of this radio. Holy smokes. I'm very, very nervous now. There are guys who specialize in restoring radios to better than like new condition. This might be one of them. That's not me. I'm an 80% guy. Once I get to 80%, I'm thinking I'm just about done. Okay, maybe 90%. Maybe I'll say 90%. So we have a couple of information stickers in here. This one up here looks like, let's take a little closer look at it. Probably the tube layout. Yeah, and it's also marking the different alignment adjustments which are located on the side of the cabinet here, not accessible without the cabinet being out. So that's one of the conundrums of this type of radio. You have to take the chassis out to align it, but when you take the chassis out, you lose sight of the glass dial, which makes the alignment process very difficult. Okay, well, I think I'm going to take the radio out, put that cabinet somewhere really safe, and we'll take a look at the condition of the radio itself. But, you know, take a guess. It's probably fantastic. Awfully long screws. Okay, now pull these knobs off the front here. Okay. It came off kind of suddenly. Protected with felt protectors. Okay. I'll take these last two screws out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hang this over the edge here. Not the right tool. Not the right tool. Never really get it with that. Crazy long screws. Not the most exciting part of the video here. Come on, what are you doing? Am I putting it back in? Something funny about this screw. Turns out this is an exciting part. Something funny going on there. Turning the screw, I don't think it's coming out. The radio's resting on it. Oh, it came out. That's what it was. The radio was kind of pinching the screw in. Okay, now I got 4 of them out. There should be a little more. Should have come out. They're all out. Okay, now they're all out. And one of them must have fallen back here somewhere. Okay, are you loose? Yep. Okay, speaker and all is coming out. A lot of these radios you have to tip to lower that front panel a bit. I don't know about this one, but I did. Anyway, unbelievably clean. And so the owner has craftily hidden his name in there. Greg. And that's part of his last name there. Who did it? Well, we know who did it. So I'm just going to leave this as it is and get this cabinet out of here. I see some something going on there. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's anything. You just put these corner blocks in so we can put the back on the radio, and he may well have put these in such a way that they're gluing these corners together, because these cabinets tend to come apart right in the corners here, especially if you lift it this way. Don't do that. Don't carry your radio around like this. Always carry it from the bottom. You know, these cabinets were made by cabinet makers. Like, I guess that kind of goes without saying to some degree, but I mean, they had a lot of skill in making furniture cabinets, and they applied that skill to radio cabinets when they came along. So these are really well built. That's been my experience. They will dry out and come apart in here and in here. This one is perfect. I still can't believe this hasn't been refinished, and if somebody did refinish it, wow, they did one heck of a good job on it, no doubt about it. It does have a little bit of down around the base trim. You can see some knocks here, along here, which is typical for a radio like this to take knocks on these corners. On corners like this. They just eventually get banged up a little bit. It's been touched up, that's for sure. It's had some black touch-up paint put on it. I'm still just really impressed with this. Now I'm going to put it away where I can't damage it. At least that's the theory. And then we're going to try that. We'll look at the radio and then we'll give it a try. Okay, once again working on a radio in this kind of condition makes me quite nervous, because it's hard to make it better, easy to make it worse, and I do not want to make it worse. So there's the nameplate here. This is a Philco, looks like number 49. Philco number 49. This little sticker says television, frequency modulation, and phonograph connection. frequency modulation. I think they really meant to put FM there, like FM radio. So if you had an FM radio with an output, for some reason you could plug it into here and hear it come out of the speaker on this radio. Maybe there was an FM adapter or something like that. So looking at these tubes, wow, just looking at the whole thing. I mean, I'm used to seeing radios covered in dust and dirt and filth and disgust. But look at this, look at how clean this is. So just a few observations now. You can see all this grounding that's being done here down to the chassis. So I know the frame of the capacitor is very securely grounded to the chassis here, provided that rivet's not loose. These rivets, these are not reliable. You work this connection a little bit and you can make this rivet come loose enough to start giving trouble. Especially look at how much grounding's going on here. They're really counting on this rivet to do the job, and I believe they've even soldered at it a little bit to try to improve it. On the other side, there's also a copper ground strap and another grounding terminal there. They really grounded this guy down. Some of these capacitors, you have to be a little careful. Some of these capacitors are isolated from the chassis and are carrying voltage, or can be carrying voltage, as I found out once years ago. And this is awfully wiggly and loose. That's a little odd. So often these guys are mounted on grommets, again, to isolate them from the chassis, and I think to give them just a little bit of isolation from the chassis. So any vibration that's going on won't be transmitted up into the, less of it will be transmitted into the capacitor frame and into the plates. So if these plates are shook, they can make a sound come out the speaker, just from the incidental retuning of the radio slightly. So it's a little odd that this is just a bit loose. Maybe look at that a little later, but it could be from grommets worn out. Looks like there's probably something in behind this. Not the best. It's quite loose, and you'd have to imagine this makes this tricky to tune because it's going to move a bit. Let's try tuning the radio here. Who's doing that? You're doing that. So see the capacitor wiggling around? That's going to make this radio weird to tune. It's going to do weird stuff. So we can take a look at that. Hey, amazing. Something actually not quite 100% with this radio. Wow. So it's capacitor tuned on the IF from the top. You don't have to be underneath. But let's look underneath. What do you think we're going to find underneath this radio? Let's see now. So if I tip it on its side here, and this is a good way to do it. Transformer down, and there's the wheel here. String wheel does not touch my bench top. Good, that's good and stable. There again, you can see all these markings and writing that someone has done. That probably Greg did all that. I don't know. Okay, so here we've got the switch for switching between radio and the input on the back. And I don't think this is done necessarily the best way, because it looks like you're switching the phono signal in on top of the radio signal, so that if you have this radio tuned to a station, it looks to me like you'll still hear the radio playing while you play something through here. And that sounds like a crazy arrangement, but it was somewhat common in radios back in the day. So he's got a 3-position switch here, or a double pole, double throw switch. So this is quite capable of completely switching off from the radio signal and onto the phono input at the back here. So someone's done some excellent work in the back of this radio, better than what I would do, I have to admit. So I'm looking at the way this capacitor has been installed and found a way to steady it here. And so I think this is a replacement, I think. Likewise, same thing down here. It would look like a replacement. And fortunately, it's all covered up, so I can't really see the size of the capacitor, but I think a safe assumption is whoever did this knew what they were doing, and they've got properly sized capacitors in here. Although physically they look a little small. I can see the number 22 here. I can see the microfarad symbol here. So, you know, the best assumption I can make is everything is fine with that. Okay, so there's nothing in here that's jumping out at me. Here's a, this is jumping out. So this volume control has a tap on the back of it, and the tap is not used. It would not be a common thing to install a volume control and then not use the tap. In fact, is there even, so very hard to see. Here's a wire coming around, so I believe this will be the on-off tone control here because of the way this is done. So this might have been replaced. And why would this get replaced? The on-off switch failed. That's a guess. Somewhere in this thing's life. Is that really the case? I don't know. They, if you look at the kind of locking down screw here, it's a brass nut, but this has got this other kind of inexpensive type of hold down, and the same thing up at the top here is this other inexpensive kind. Notice these shafts, brass, brass, not brass, not brass. This one is the tuning shaft, so it's liable to be different. But you would think these would all be done the same and look the same, but they don't. So just guessing here, oh, this is the band switch here. Well, that explains again, same reason why these would look different, because they're very different from the other. Band switch turns very easily. Sometimes you can't turn these without a knob. And I think this is the volume here. It's quite common for the on-off switch to be on the volume control. Now down in here, this is a Philco radio, and down here is a Philco block capacitor. And you see it's connected right across the power lines here. That's not necessarily the best thing. These old block capacitors, they're black, they're hard to see in the camera, but there's a block here. Block is held down with this screw, and the screw also provides grounding into the chassis. So that would, and you see a wire coming in here and here. For some reason they're not, well, this is one terminal, this is one terminal, and this is one terminal. So I have a bare wire right here, which is going a very short distance, which is probably just fine. But this block itself, it's probably time for this to be retired, and for a regular capacitor to be, actually not even a regular one, you'd want to put a special kind of capacitor that will not catch fire if it blows up. So that's probably where we're going with that. I see that there's some other stuff connected here. Wires are very stiff, so we won't worry about that right now. I believe what I remember the owner saying is one day he turned it on and it just didn't work. Now I could be confused because lots of people call me up and talk to me about their radios, and I get the stories all mixed up. So up in here, it's a lot of parts. I'm looking to see if there's a regular wax capacitor up underneath there somewhere. I do not see one, because it'd be very hard to get in here and replace a capacitor. It looks like they're all mica type capacitors, which are highly reliable. So these are probably the filter capacitor replacements. I'm guessing the original filter capacitor is where? Where is it? Where, down here. Where is it? So Usually there's a tubular metal, like a metal tubular capacitor sticking up on these radios. I don't see one. That means there would have been something underneath here. These bands are a little suspicious. They look like they may have been there originally, and if I'm right, these capacitors are replacements. The original one was probably sitting right in here and also sitting right in here, and they just replaced them in situ, I guess you could say. Is that the right way to say that? So, any reason not to operate this radio? Oh, I don't think so at all. No. Would you want to plug it straight into an outlet and turn it on? Well, having somebody tell me that it doesn't work anymore tells me that they had it plugged in and nothing really bad happened. Sight unseen? No, you would not want to plug something like this right into the outlet and give her a go. So I have ways of doing this. If you can see some old style incandescent light bulbs back here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to feed 120 volts minus some voltage that's going to drop on these lights. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to feed power through the light, literally through the filament before it gets here. Or in other words, I'm going to have these lights in series with the radio itself. That's all taking place with this guy here. This is just an extension cord, and this box is a box I recommend anybody to get because it tells you voltage, current, power, all kinds of things. It's really an appliance checker, and you plug this in the outlet, plug your appliance in, and you can read, how much power is my vacuum really using. So very interesting device. I have it here on the end of the extension cord. You can see the ground ground prong is exposed here. There is no ground on this. There's no ground on this. It's going to an isolation transformer, which also increases my safety here. I cannot get a shock to earth. Still get shocks off this radio, but only between parts of the radio. So if I were to stand in here on a wet floor with bare feet, and if this chassis were live at 120 volts, I could potentially touch it and not feel a shock. But I'm not about to experiment and find out if that's really true. I'm all about not getting a shock here. I've had my share of them all through my life, especially when I was a kid. Got shocked somewhat regularly. I had a coroner. I won't go into the details of why I was talking to a coroner, but it had to do with an electrical accident that cost somebody their life. Nothing to do with me or a very, very indirect involvement, but there I was. And he turned to me and he told me this. Now, this guy's a coroner, and his job was to investigate an electrical death for Ontario. He was in the coroner's office in Toronto, and he is a very unusual guy. He said to me, have you ever had a shock? And I said, sure, I've had shocks throughout my life, doing this kind of stupid stuff when I was a kid, and other accidental stuff that anybody could do. He said, well, you're lucky you're still alive. Well, I said, well, wait a minute, it's just 120 volts. Like lots of people get those shocks. And this is what he told me. If you get that shock just at the right moment, your heartbeat is just at the right moment in its beat pattern, it will stop your heart. Huh? That's right. So he said it's just a matter of odds when you get a shock. Now, I don't know if that's true. This is what the guy told me. He's an expert. He looks into the deaths of people. So I'm sharing that with you. You probably doing this kind of stuff, fooling around with electricity. You've probably had shocks. Almost everybody has had a shock at some point in their life. I don't know if it's really true, but makes me not want to get a shock. Okay, enough talk about how I'm trying to keep myself safe. If you're doing this kind of work, you are responsible for your safety. Certainly not me here. Okay, so we think this is the volume control. I'm looking, there's three, well, I could look on the cabinet, it says volume, but I'll do it this way. There's three terminals on the potentiometer, they're all connected. This is the volume control for sure. And this will be the on-off. We're going to turn it off. This will be the band switch. We're going to turn it all the way to the left. I think that's where it is now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. 4 settings. So what I was looking for, I have to, this is a 4-band radio. It's a 4-band radio, 3 shortwave, 1 broadcast band. There only is 1 broadcast band. So every setting here is a radio band setting. So it's probably AM, shortwave 1, 2, and 3. There's no setting here for listening to your phono. So my guess is the instructions what this radio would say: tune to a quiet spot on the dial and play your record. Unless there was some other kind of switching arrangement here. I don't think there was. I think it was just phono, no switch. This is an additional thing. We'll have to look at this more closely. Maybe this is cutting off the phono or the radio and leaving the phono to operate at that point. That's probably what this is doing. That's probably what's going on. Okay, now we're going to operate this radio. We need to put a little antenna on it. So I'm going to get my... So this leads to an outdoor antenna. So I'm going to have to stop and go turn on. And then the ground, this is probably a ground lead. You know what? This wire, oh, wait a minute, mixed up. Yeah, this is a ground lead here. I can see it going to a ground terminal right there. We're just going to pull it out a little bit. If I'm going to use it, or should I? Maybe not. Maybe what I'll do, I will not use it. I will use this ground point here. How about this one right here? This one I was talking about. Get on there. Okay. So I have to go and turn on the antenna. Make sure it's on down here. Make sure this is set now. I put some. I put a little mark on this to show which way's up. This way's up. Up is that way. And what does it say on the back? It says up is the radio. Up is the way it's set. Okay. I'll go turn on my antenna and we will play this radio. A little bit of excitement outside my shop as I was walking through my house. My foot got caught on a wire going to a little space heater and I fell right to the floor. I don't think I've ever fallen to the floor like that before. So, not hurt though. Not hurt, just feeling bad about myself for having fallen down. Here we go. Switch off. Volume down. Now over here I have this switch panel. I turn that on. That energizes the system, but I have not sent any power here yet. You have to operate this switch. If I flip the switch down, power goes through the light bulbs, comes to here. If I flip the switch up, the light bulbs are out of the circuit, and we've hooked the radio right up to Niagara Falls. Actually, to the Bruce nuclear plant, not far from here. So either a nuclear power plant will be operating this radio or Niagara Falls, one of the two. So we're going to go down. Now, nothing should happen because this is turned off. We get a chance to see where the voltage is set, 120. It won't be 120 when it goes through the lights. For a radio like this, in fact, I'm going to take out one bulb. So now all the power is just going through this one bulb. That's going to drop 20-25 volts. So the radio is going to have a fairly low voltage. I've already turned down the maximum. It's 114 now. Okay, here we go. I'll switch it on. So 98, 100. It should start going down again. Turn it up a little bit. There it's going down. That's as the tubes begin to conduct power. You can see the light in the background here. You know it's dropping some voltage there, some power being consumed in the light. When you operate a radio like this at 80 volts or 90 volts, it takes a long time for the heaters to fully heat. I believe the complaint is this radio doesn't work at all anymore. probably, as a guess, considering the condition of the radio and how it's been taken care of, it's probably a defective vacuum tube. It's probably what we're really up against. If this were in a professional shop back in the 40s or whatever, and somebody brought it in, the first thing they would do is test the tubes before doing anything else, because they don't want to waste a bunch of time like I have taking it out of its cabinet. But here, I'm happy to take it out and take a look at it. Let's turn the volume up. There is not a sound. So not a sound indicates either defective output tube, there's nothing, or no B+, which would be a defective rectifier. And both the rectifier tube and the output tube are the two most likely tubes to fail, because they're the hard-working guys. The rest of them are loafers in here. They're just loafing along. If I'm going to stick my ear right in here and try to hear anything, hiss, crackle, anything. Okay, there is a hiss in here, so that suggests that the output tube is operating. Now we can inject a few signals here and see what happens, because we're not hearing anything. I got the volume right up full too. Okay, so first band change, does it crackle? Full volume, no crackle. Nothing. So that would suggest something has gone wrong beyond this switch point. If the problem was ahead of the switch, and this is pretty early in the radio, then we would hear this crackling. So likewise, we're not going to hear anything from the antenna at all. Okay, let me just turn the volume right up. Nothing. Nothing. We'll now make an observation. These are all glass tubes. Can we not see if one of them is failing to light up? Let us look and see. Douse the lights here. So, okay, so this, can you see me? A little dark in here. It could be the radio's not operating because I haven't got it on full voltage yet. This guy's lit. You can't really see me, but I'll just keep pointing. These two, I can't tell for sure. The lockable ones, I can't see. Oh, wait a minute. Get down low here. Oh, they're all glowing. So I think there's a heater functioning in each one of these tubes. Okay, I can just feel my way around to there. Turning the lights back on. So maybe it's the low voltage. So I'm going to jack the voltage up, but keep these bulbs in just by screwing this one in. Okay, that'll bring the voltage up very close to normal voltage. So I think 100 volts. 100 volts, a radio like this should work. Volume is full. Okay, now I'm going to inject another signal. I'm going to turn the volume down. Nothing. She's a silent one. Now that should certainly cause lots of... Jim, are you sure that switch is switched? Or do you think it is? Mount it in this way. It's switched the radio. Well, let's switch it. So I'm going to turn this down, switch it. Try and switch it. Hey, what's with you? Oh. Switch doesn't want to go. Oh. Huh. I don't think I tried it when it was out of the... Well, the switch is doing one of two things. It's either separating these wires or joining them. And I will short them. That'll be the switch. Do the this with some volume, because the volume was right down there. Jump. Nothing happening. Full volume. Don't jump. I'm telling myself not to jump. Well, something weird about this then. What would ever cause a switch like this to stick like that? Huh, it's pooched. I have lots of switches, so yeah, I don't know, I can't move it. Okay, we're still hearing absolutely nothing out of this radio. So I'm going to give it the full voltage treatment now. So we know for sure it's not just because it's running on 97 volts. We're going to give it the 114, was it? Can't imagine that's going to make a difference, but we need to do it. Oh, I hear it. Very quietly. Let's tune this guy. Oh yeah. There he is. Working, but volume very, very low. Okay, you know what? This is where we're going to leave it. I'll leave it just right here. This is perfect. Thank God we're getting a little bit of noise out of it. That's actually a station out of it. That's going to make it much easier to troubleshoot and find out what's going on. Totally silent radio is a little tougher to do. Could still be nothing more than a tube has gone weak. And that's really what we're up against. Having heard the radio operate, not sure how far you can go yeah, let's leave it for tomorrow. I'm thinking thoughts here. I shouldn't be thinking now. Thanks a lot for watching to this point, and tomorrow we'll probably find out what's actually gone wrong with this radio. See ya.